And I would like to welcome to the stage to talk about a hot Nordic, how they succeed and what's to come, our superstar session here with Anton Albiin from Baltic Explorers. Thank you. Come on up.
So I'm here to tell you a bit about the Nordic region and Sweden and our acceleration projects and in particular, but just a lot of the success story. And you can roll. Next slide.
Did you know that every 8th person in the world has played a game made by Swedes? Oh, but Sweden, aren't they too busy shopping at IKEA or dancing to ABBA? Wrong. Well, they do all of those things too. From the front line of the battlefield, to the mining and building of worlds, to finding out what it's like to wreak havoc as a goat. Sweden is responsible for a lot of visionary games. But I'm not gonna start bragging about stats, like telling you how many people play Candy Crush every month. 100 million. It's not like I can convince you to become a part of the Swedish games industry by showing you these numbers, telling you exactly why there's never been a better time to do so. Take it from this Swede instead.
Yeah, it's true.
See? Told ya. So, if you're interested in belonging to a community with diverse people focused on bringing the highest level of creativity to a fan base, that in turn allows this business to be one of the most profitable in the world, I'd start thinking about becoming a Swede.
So yeah, that's us. Very humble. If you think about Sweden, you usually think about these things. ABBA, IKEA, Volvos, and that's true. That's been our identity for very many decades. But if you look at brand recognition today, it is more of this. So, of course, Finland and Sweden and the Nordic, we have the Rovios, Supercells, King, Mojang, and the brand recognition of Angry Birds or Minecraft or Candy Crush for that matter is, a lot bigger than the older stuff coming out of this region, or Nokia, or whatever we did 20, 30 years ago. So it looks a lot like this today. We have anything ranging from mobile casual to the mid-core or the indies or the AAA. I usually have to explain what this all is because I'm a lobbyist and I speak to bureaucrats all day, but I don't have to explain any of this to you. But yeah, all of this is from Sweden. Valheim, one of my favorites from last year, made by 1.5 person who, jumped ship and just made that, which is crazy. Anyway, let's take a look at Europe as an example or as a comparison. And if you look at, that's Finland, and Sweden is over there. Next to Spain. So it's pretty weird because we are like 15 million in those two countries combined. And it's growing a lot. We have this thing together with the Baltics and EU projects and stuff, trying to make everything grow. So we're trying to maybe share some of our craziness with them. Maybe they can do things together with us. We go back 10 years, this was the biggest game out of Sweden. And if we look at our data from back then, it was 130 million euros turnover, and blah, blah, blah companies and blah, blah, blah. But now, 10 years later, we have 3.3 billion euros in revenue, which is a bigger export than iron ore, which is like the thing we did back 100 years ago, or exports of trucks like Volvo, Scania, or paper and pulp industry was our most recent thing we could measure ourselves with. So we're surpassing that as an export. Which is like the cornerstone of Swedish enterprise and has been for 100 years. So that's a lot of fun. I like to brag about these things. So this is a comparison between these 2 decades, which is crazy. And I mean, we're all part of the same industry. So this is just a growth that happens to a lot of parts of Europe, but we've been really lucky with this. So this can happen for a few reasons. I think the Nordic region has been very born global in the sense that we don't dub our shows on TV. We watch American TV and a lot of stuff in English. We don't think about our own country when we create culture or write pop songs or anything like that. We do it in English because that makes more sense. Otherwise, you can cater to like a few 100,000 maximum, right? So if I would correct myself about born globals, we're born Westerns probably, because we don't really know how to sell culture to Chinese or Taiwanese or Japanese people or Koreans as much as we do with Americans or Europeans. And we're lucky to be able to be passionate about the things you do. We're not really raised as kids to be doctors or lawyers or dentists or anything like that. It's more like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Because you should do something you think is fun. What's your passion in life? And you put that pressure on the poor 5-year-old to decide. And then people want to make video games or write pop songs and stuff like that. We also have long, dark winters. So that explains itself, I think. We make games instead, hanging out. Oh, wait, what? All right, I have another one. We have flat organizations.
What's interesting is the Swedes are...
It's not really working though. My slide is acting up.
What's interesting is
you have a still
Swedes
image.
Are an extremely equal people. There are no hierarchies here. The Swedes prefer a so-called flat organization.
Can I tackle my command? Yes, Captain. That is if you feel like it. I mean, I don't have to decide everything all the time. You want to make a decision? Oh, maybe it's Ingrid's turn. Okay. Ingrid, do you want to attack? You want to attack?
I think we should have a group discussion about this.
That's a good idea. We should bring in Lasse. Yes. Lasse, yes, you want to attack?
So anyway, it's more funny when it's not lagging and acting up like that. But the idea is that we have very flat social structures in a sense. I mean, like any organization, you will instead create unofficial, hierarchies. But anyway, it's really flat in the sense that if you're like an intern, design intern, you can, have opinions about things that you normally wouldn't, maybe in Japan or United States. We have a welfare state, which helps out a lot. People, have they don't have to get loans, student loans and stuff. So most of my friends who started game companies, they did it while pretending to be studying at the university or something. And a culture of a collective over the individual. We are a very collectivistic culture in the Nordic region. People don't really refer to us as that because we have a very individualistic, maybe structure as well, but we have a collectivistic culture referring to the systems of doing things and organizing things. So it's always like create a system and that will be powered over individuals, which is great for making games as well because it's a lot of complicated things you have to create. And that's maybe better for playing soccer. I don't know, Zlatan has really provided a lot for our soccer team. But the women usually win a lot. So they don't have a star player like that. So I think that helps as a team. Anyway, sports, nobody cares. We focus on what's bad. So there's this thing, Lutheran culture, I guess many of you are familiar with, but if you ask like the most brilliant people I know as game designers, they will still only talk about what's wrong and what they need to fix and what's left to create, even though it's like an amazing game already. And I think that's that kind of pessimistic attitude about what you have to do all the time translates to a better game experience in the end. We also have low self-esteem, which is great. Los och Jante. It's actually Norwegian, but we share basically the same culture. And it's all this. It was actually written as a satire, but it sort of explains a culture of people, how people talk to each other. It's a bit hillbilly, I guess, but that's, I mean, we got rich like 30 years ago or something. So about this like attitude of you shouldn't really stand out or brag about who you are or what you do. It should be the work itself should be talking, right? And you shouldn't talk about yourself. So yeah, that was written as a satire, like I said, by a Norwegian author. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, this is us. We're almost proud of it. And we got this in the 80s. So the pen and role-playing games became really popular. We even had our own Swedish authors who did, you know, Drakar och Demoner, which is Dungeons and Dragons, but it was slightly better, a bit better. And a lot of Commodore 64s all over the place. So people started coding, and from that we got demo scenes, just as well as, you know, you had over here and in Germany and blah, blah, blah. I have a whole talk about that, but we can skip that. So yeah, I think this all could happen because of several things. Infrastructure, fiber, fast internet. We had international airports. That's actually really important if you want to sell games in the 90s. So that's something. We had pop culture, and it was not even dubbed because we didn't have, I don't know, a budget to dub kids shows in the 80s, which is kind of weird. But yeah, we watched T-Man in English growing up. Good education and social structure, that works for this. So anyway, what we were doing here is we have a lot of cool games. So we have this project called Baltic Explorers. We happen to be sponsoring this thing as well. Logos, great. So we have a lot of games shown here from Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, that you can check out. And they're looking for partnerships. They're looking for investors and publishers mostly. So yeah, come check out our booth and get to know us more. And that's us. I think I have time for questions. Thank you. Yeah.
That's great, Anton. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, great. We have definitely got a few minutes for questions, so absolutely. You mentioned that you've got a booth here. If people have seen this talk or they're around the show and they want to get involved in the Swedish scene, what's the best thing for them to do? Is it make an appointment and meet to match, or come into your booth? And
yeah, just go there, grab somebody working there, me or somebody else. Get to know more. We have more information there, you know, and who's participating. Most of these games are being shown there, so get to talk to us.
Yeah, and also, not that, you know, I want to promote rival events, obviously PT Connects, but are there events in Sweden as well that people can connect with you? And
of course. So Nordic Game Conference in May, you should go to that. We also have Sweden Game Conference in October every year. In Skövde, if you want to try to pronounce Swedish words, which is great, where we got Goat Simulator and Satisfactory and Valheim, it's from Skövde.
Right.
So it's one of those bubbling startup areas.
Fantastic. Any questions for Anton? Brian?
So I'm Brian Baglow. I work with the team at Pocket Gamer, but I also look after the games industry in Scotland. And I'm sitting here nodding along going, yeah, got that. I had Dark Winters, yeah, oh yeah. It's the issue that we face as a country at the moment is almost a lack of ambition. We've got quite a lot of small indie studios, but none of them are kind of aiming for the scale, the growth, and kind of, I guess, hitting the global market as it exists. You know, they're quite satisfied with sticking stuff out on itch or Steam, and if they're sustainable to game number 2, and it's a big if, then they're happy with that. How did Sweden kind of raise its game, if you'll forgive the pun? How did you guys decide that you could actually do more and be successful?
I think people have the same mindset, but mostly it happened by accident, actually. There are some exceptions, like Candy Crush, where they were early and they scaled up and they explored free-to-play and blah, blah, blah. And of course, in Finland, there's plenty of examples. But in Sweden, they are a lot like that too. Starving artists trying to do cool stuff and want to impress their friends rather than make a lot of money. And there's nothing wrong with that, definitely. And you have to be really good and really lucky with timing as well. For Valheim, for example, I don't know if that game would have worked as well if it wasn't a global pandemic, if it wasn't the time where people are ready for that and they want to explore this genre, crafting, survival, and it's really big already. Maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago, that wouldn't have worked as well. If you're looking at production value and stuff like that, compared to the market as a whole. So I think the short answer to that is like we don't really know. I worked at Mojang before, and Marcus didn't. He made Minecraft on his spare time, working at King. He wasn't looking to make the most sold game in the world, just surpassing Tetris 10 years later. That was not his idea. He would be happy to sell like 50,000 copies and make more games, like the guys you're referring to. So I think that's more common actually. And then there are just some exceptions where they are, I don't know, good capitalists as well. So when they start, investing in new projects and stuff like that, they actually have a nose for it, I guess, as well. So there has to be a combination, of course. So some people can do it, most can't, I think.
Unless anyone else has got a question, we've still got a couple of minutes, so please do raise your hand. But you mentioned it very briefly there, actually, about no doubt the global pandemic had an impact on the global games industry. What was its effect on the Swedish game industry in particular? Has the last 2 years particularly affected the Swedish games community?
For our members, most admitted that it actually increased. So yeah, they became more productive. I don't know if that's the case 2 years later. People are getting depressed and kind of lonely. But like from the get-go, it was kind of people were like felt guilty about it because they were making more money. 5-year-old games were getting traction again. You heard of this game, Among Us?
Yeah.
That I guess some of you maybe know those guys.
I believe it. Yeah, well, I didn't won an award. I think at the Pocket Gamer Awards last year. I think.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And there are things like that, but in smaller scale as well.
Yeah, sure.
Where like 10 5-year-old games are starting to make money again. So they are super lucky to just have their games out. But for newer teams who don't have their games on markets yet, or fan bases or communities, for them it's been really hard because they couldn't go here and promote their games.
Exactly.
And stuff like that. So it's been a rough time.
Absolutely, yeah. Not being able to go to pitching competitions and so on for indies has been quite a hard time. Well, look, we're kind of at a point where we can move on. So Anton, thank you very much again. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
And yeah, your email's on the screen there as well. So folks, if you want to catch up with Anton, there was the slide there.